because we're getting it's getting on here in UK.
I've closed my blinds because the sun was shining, and I can't even. Have we changed our? Yeah, we have changed, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes, we
Okay.
have changed. This is my Celine cardigan made in the Lindy chain from We Crochet.
Nice.
Hannah's wearing her
Can't remember what it's called. Ruffle jumper.
ruffle jumper. There we go.
You know,
Beautiful.
on the tin.
So we're sporting lacy stitches and we're sporting ruffles in this live. And I've mentioned the beautiful Lindy chain yarn from We Crochet. And if you wanted to grab yourself some yarn from We Crochet, we have got $40 gift cards that you could possibly win if you scan this QR code, which will bring you into a Google form, and you can pop your email address in there, which is going to count as your entry to the giveaway. The giveaway runs all the way until Tuesday, 6 a.m. EST or 11 a.m. BST. I'm going to be a pro by the end of
Well done. How do you remember that?
Like, ask me what time it is in Tokyo. Don't. But yeah, that's our giveaway going on for the $40 gift cards. But even if you don't win, we still have amazing 15% off coupon code to go over to crochet.com and do a little shopping spree, whether you want to grab yourself hooks or yarn, whatever they've got. It's garment 15, so that's your 15% off discount code for crochet.com. So you can go ahead, go over there right now. It's valid until the 27th of March. And we've already got people popping in with questions for our next host. So let's bring on the fabulous Raylin.
Hi, Raylin.
For some stitching. Hello. So Raylin delivered a fantastic lesson all about yarn. And I know we've had loads of questions in our previous Q&As that we're going to answer together with Raylin. We're all going to pitch in with our little bit of knowledge about yarn, but the real pro is Raylin, because she put together an amazing lesson, which I hope you all enjoyed. So yeah, let's jump in. We've got some comments from a Facebook user. Sorry, we can't see your name.
My sweater. It's my pink sweater. Like, honestly, hopefully it'll be a bestseller when I launch it then. So the pink sweater that I was wearing earlier has not launched yet. It's in the final stages of testing, and I need to edit the video, and I promise it will be launched soon. I promise.
Absolutely. So, Raylin, how are you? Tell us, how are you? What it's like where you are?
It's good. I come from, right now I'm in Arizona, USA. I know you guys are completely on the opposite side. And things have been a little crazy here because I am in the process of moving. Yet again, I feel like we've been moving every couple years. Fortunately, this time we're staying in the same state, so we're actually just moving right down the street. So it's not going to be quite as crazy and hectic. We've gone from Washington State to Idaho and now to Arizona. So yeah, so
I didn't know, like, for people who don't live in this, like, they're a long way away from each other.
Yes,
they're not just down the road, are they?
They are not down the road. So yeah, actually the drive from Idaho to Arizona is a 26-hour drive.
Wow.
So we have made it multiple times just moving stuff from Idaho to Arizona. And we haven't even officially got everything out of Idaho, and we're moving again here in Arizona. But this one's it's like 10-minute trip down the road. So thankfully.
Okay. Yeah. Slightly better than 26 hours. Yeah.
Slightly, just a little. Yeah.
Just a touch.
Although, could you crochet in the car? Because, you know.
Yes, I can, up to a certain point, because I don't know about you guys. I get car sick very easily. So I always have to carry Dramamine with me. But yeah, so for a while I'll be able to crochet, but then I have to stop. And yeah, it's one of the things. I never really get a full project complete on the road. Excuse me. But I do get a good chunk of it done. So
fantastic. Yeah. I can't crochet in a car at all. I've tried. I'm not normally like car sick or anything, but when I sort of get my head down and was looking at the crochet, I couldn't do it. Honestly, all these like I had cold sweat running down my back.
Oh
I
no.
It's like car sickness without just like, because that'll happen to me just being in the car. And mostly it's the back seat, but it's even worse if you try to read something. Like, have you ever tried reading while you're in the car? It's awful. Don't do it. If you can't crochet while you're in the car, don't try reading. It's even worse. So
there's people.
There are people on. Yeah, we have people from Ontario, a couple of them from Ontario. Hi, nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Yeah, so pop your yarn related questions in the chat. But Veronica, you had some, didn't you, sent through to you? So do you want to go with those?
I have saved them from the previous lives as well. So if anyone asks a question about yarn at all you didn't answer, we are getting to them now with our guest Ray Lynn. So we've got how to tell if a yarn is a good substitute. With a limited budget, my options tend to revolve around Red Hard, Leon Brand or Yarn Bee. But how can we tell a yarn is a good substitute?
So one of the best things that you can do is if you have a particular yarn that you use, like you just said, Red Heart or Yarn Bee, and you want a good substitute for those, yarnsub.com it's where I go hands down. If I have something like that in particular that I already know what I'm looking for, you just go there. It's super easy. Yarnsub.com. You go and you put in the name, the brand, and then the name of the yarn, and it'll actually pull up a bunch of options for you. And it's really great because they give you a percentage as well. And for me, I don't know how everybody else does it, but for me, I try to pick something that's at least 95% match and above. I don't like to go below that because then I think it's kind of getting, your fibers are starting to get a little bit more different. Your textures are going to be a little bit more different. So when it pulls up that list, there's like, it'll tell you it's like a 99% match, a 98% match, and always try to go as, high on that percentage as possible because what it does is it really does try to match up the fiber content, the yarn weight, everything. So you're going to get the closest match that you can.
Because it's hard, isn't it, really? I often think like you can match like the weight fine, but the fiber might be completely different. And then you'll end up with a massively different garment.
Right. And your garment so your garment could be completely different. Your sizing could be off. It really could end up causing a large headache. So you really do want to match up those fiber contents as much as possible. Especially if you're going from a pattern. So if you're going from a pattern and the designer has given you a recommended yarn, please do your best to either use the recommended yarn or find one that matches as highly as possible, like a 98, 99% match, because then you're getting the closest that you can to the designer's product, right? If you use a completely different yarn, people will come and they're like, well, it didn't work. Why isn't my garment fitting? Why does, it fit on this person, but not on me? And, did you use a different yarn? Did you use a different, there's a lot of things that go into it because the fiber content really, really is important. It's going to affect, not only color, but drape. It's going to, affect how it gets seamed together. It's going to affect how it feels on your skin. There's really a lot that does go into it. So if you are going from a pattern, it's really, really best to get as close as you can to the designer's recommended yarn.
Definitely.
And it also goes to say, I mean, this took me a little while to work out myself, but when you look at the yarn label, you very often have got the yardage or how many meters you can fit in, say, 100-gram ball of yarn. So it's fair to say that when you pick up a DK weight yarn, they will still quite differ, don't they? Depending on how many meters or yards fits in that 100-gram ball of yarn, that can tell you what thickness of the DK you're kind of working with. So it's very, very often very important to look at the original yarn, and if it says kind of like 250 meters per 100-gram ball of yarn, it's a very good idea to try and match that number as close as possible, because if you look at some other DK yarns and they, for example, have 295 meters in 100-gram ball of yarn, that means that the other yarn is obviously thinner because you can fit more meters into the same amount of weight. So that took me a while to work out, because it's a DK, I mean, come on, DK should be the same as DK. But yeah, the length of the yarn that you can fit in certain amount of weight is super important as well, because like I said, we know that not every DK is the same thickness. So that's another really important thing to take into account, I think.
Right. And it's the same thing with your medium weights too. I mean, I use Karen Simply Soft a lot. I don't know if you guys use that, but I really enjoy it. A lot of people don't, because it's not a typical medium 4 worsted weight, right? You have the same kind of issue going on where it's actually more of a thinner weight. A lot of times I tell people it's really more of a lightweight 3, even though it has, you know, the same amount of, you know, plies as a regular medium 4 worsted. So there's a lot more that goes into play with yarn than a lot of people realize, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned one website, the yarnsub.com, that actually does a lot of this for you, doesn't it? They kind of match the yardage, match the type of fiber that's used, even match the twist and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very good starting point. So you can get your suggestions from that website, you know, get these yarns, and then you can then go on and do your own little research and look at the meters in the ball, and really try to, like you said, try to nail down that yarn substitute and try to get as close as possible to the original yarn that the designer used in a pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking in the chat, and I thought somebody had a question that
there's a couple here. There's someone just saying, I struggle with yarns because I have a wool allergy, so I usually sub yarns. I've been disappointed more than once. Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it, to find? And it's a lot of experimenting. I think a lot of experimenting.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard. You know, she's asking you, is there a fiber substitute that you could use instead of wool? And unfortunately, with like fibers, you know, a wool fiber is a wool fiber. You can't, you know, it's going to be really hard to match, you know, fiber made from a different animal to wool. Does that make sense? Because, you know, they each have their own unique properties. So, you know, unfortunately, I don't know if there is necessarily a different fiber out there that is going to be, you know, a perfect substitute for wool. I don't know if you've tried wool blends, like I don't know if it's wool at all will cause the allergy, but there's lots of different types of wool out there. So it could be a specific type of wool that you're allergic to. So I would actually suggest trying different wool blends and maybe trying to figure out if, you know, is it a specific wool that you're allergic to, and maybe you can use a different type or a blend where it's not as highly concentrated in that yarn, if that makes sense. That would be my best suggestion. I don't know if Hannah or Veronica has a better suggestion for someone who is dealing with that type of allergy.
Definitely. I think because the other problem then, if you think about, oh, well, maybe I should go for a linen or a cotton or something like that, that has massively different properties as a fiber to your wool. And the designer will, I mean, of course you can try it, but a cotton used where a wool has been, you know, to design will be a massively different, like, garment. Like this in cotton would be so heavy,
yeah.
Whereas actually what's yours made in? Did you say Lindy chain?
This is Lindy chain, yeah. So this is linen, yeah.
Yeah, it's got linen in it, so that's been designed to be more lightweight. So I think it's easier to use a wool in replacement for a cotton or a linen than it is to use the other way around.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to replace wool, as it were.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that every time you're gonna substitute yarn, the results will slightly differ. I mean, you know, unless you really use the original yarn that the pattern calls for, you have to take into account that there will be slight differences to your finished result as opposed to the original make by the designer. But you know, that's the beauty of it, that even if you don't achieve the exact same result, you might actually invent something completely new.
Right? You might like it.
You end up loving it. I mean, it could be exactly what you wanted and you just fell upon it. And that's one of the beauty of, you know, crocheting garments, is that you could end up with something that you didn't even intend, but it just turned out to be perfect.
I mean, I'm sure we've done that all before, haven't we? When we try to design something, you think, well, this is not what I intended to make, but oh my gosh, this is good.
Oh, it's great.
I love those happy accidents. Happy accidents. We've got someone here asking, should we swatch a larger block to help with checking the fabric if we use a different yarn than suggested?
So I don't know. I actually don't know this. Sorry, I don't know the schedule, but I know Sarah is talking about gauge.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really great question for her. But I can tell you that the way I do is I do swatch a larger block, and I do this just, it doesn't matter if I'm substituting yarn or not. So I got to get on and watch Sarah's, because I actually start out with a 5x5 block, and then, or sometimes a 6x6 block, and then I measure my 4 inches within that. So I think doing a larger block is actually a good practice, no matter what fiber or what yarn you're using, whether you're substituting or not. So I would say yes in that scenario, but I would say yes in general, make a larger block. I just think that's a better way to do it.
I definitely think so too. And I think it's important when you're using different types, maybe trying different fiber, because you need to be able to make it big enough to do that with it. You need to be able to flap it around and go like, do I actually want to wear this?
Yeah.
Right.
If you're using a different fiber, it will behave so differently.
Yeah.
And
because
gauge,
you will get a better, if you make kind of like a 4x4 inch each swatch, you're not going to get a lot of information from a small swatch. So if you make something slightly larger, then you can stretch it, you can feel it against your skin, like the shake test.
Yeah,
that's a very good test, as Hannah said, to see how the fabric behaves on you. So if it's kind of what you want it to do, is it drapey? Does it have movement? Has it got a bit of stretch in it? So yeah, I would definitely agree that larger swatch when you're substituting yarn, just to give you a general idea of how the finished fabric will behave in your garments. Yeah.
And then Andrea has made a brilliant point here. Also, with a larger swatch, you can make something out of it. Absolutely. Like you can do. Yeah, none of your swatches should ever be wasted. Make something out of it. Or, as I learned the hard way once, don't ever do something with it before you finish your garment, because you may well have underestimated your yarn and need to undo your swatch to finish off your garment.
I've done that.
I was like, I've run out.
Oh dear.
Gauge swatch may save you. What Chris said here. Chris is back with us. When I first started crocheting, because I was self-taught, I was clueless about yarn substitution. Yeah, I think most of us are self-taught, aren't we? And this is the whole idea of this summit and everything, of sharing all this knowledge together. I found a pattern, went to a store, but the number of skeins they said, to buy the number of skeins they said I needed. Oh, bless you. It's hard, and that's the other thing. When you're substituting yarn, make sure that the balls are the same. Or if they're not the same amounts, if they're 50-gram balls in the pattern, but you're buying 100-gram balls, you're going to need a different amount of balls of yarn.
Yeah.
That's something that people seem to come a cropper with often. And they buy way too much or not enough.
Yeah, if you buy the bigger ball instead of the smaller one, I think, that's not as bad as if you buy the other way around.
Yes.
So if you just buy half the amount you need. So then we've got lot numbers and die numbers and all that kind of stuff to deal with. Yeah.
That's where the yarn label really does start to come into play some more here, guys, is because all that information is on your yarn label. So if you are following a designer's pattern and they tell you, use 2 skeins of, 354 meters, you're going to make sure that you need to make sure that you get the appropriate size yarn and not get one that's, like, as Veronica said, is a smaller skein, because you're getting less yarn than what the designer used. So you're going to end up not having enough for your project. So you really need to check those yarn labels and make sure that it is matching up with what the designer has put in their pattern.
Absolutely.
I did that. The first garment I ever made, Raylene, it was an absolute fail. I keep saying this, it was such a fail. I didn't know what gauge was. I didn't know anything. I didn't buy the right weight of yarn because I didn't know that there were different weights of yarn, because and I should have researched it more probably. But I bought so much yarn. Honestly, I could have made about 4. I had no concept. I had no idea how much, how far a ball of yarn would go. So, but there we are, never mind.
It's really hard, especially when you are a beginner and you don't have that kind of experience, and you don't know how to read a yarn label, and you don't understand meters and grams, and you don't understand fiber content. And they're easy mistakes to make.
Definitely. And that's what we want to say. We want to say that I certainly have made all of these mistakes. So I'm not alone.
As well, but that's really why we're doing this, right? Is to put together this summit so that people can come and learn and grow and know these things as they move into garment making, or crocheting garments, even so that they don't make a lot of the same mistakes that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah, because very often as a beginner, I mean, I don't know whether you guys did, but as a beginner, you kind of you go to yarn store and you grab the cheapest yarn possible.
Oh, yeah.
Most acrylic, scratches, anything, but because it's the cheapest, you kind of want to get that ball of yarn to practice with, to have a go and trying the stitches and learning. So it is quite a big step up then to take fiber content and yardage into account. Learn all different things about the yarn that is going to affect the finished object and your project.
Yeah, definitely. Eva's just asking here, she keeps finding the videos by accident. I've signed up. Where do I go for all the sessions? You go, let's find the doobry. Where's the thing? I keep saying these things. So join this. Oh, sorry, Raylene, I've covered your face up. There we go. Let's
okay.
Click on that and I'll pop it in the chat as well. This page, this is like the home page for the summit, and it's got all of the links for all of the sessions and all of that kind of stuff. As to where to find us all. So go grab it, because there's loads still to come, and all the videos that have already premiered today, they're all still available. You can go and watch them.
That's right, the links are there.
Until the end of tomorrow, they're all available. So go grab them.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's more here? Oh, there's people saying, I buy according to yardage needed, not number of balls or skeins. Perfect.
That's a very good idea.
That's a really good way to go.
Fantastic.
Chris said, I never even compared the size of the skein. I usually had to go buy and back more. I can't speak. Back and buy more. Yes, yeah, definitely. And they never have the same colour in stock or anything, do they? When you get
Yeah, it is kind of important to try to get it right the first time, because these colors, a lot of them have die lot numbers. So you're going to get a different batch if you go back, and the color might not be exactly the same. So these are important things to learn, so that what you make sure you get everything you need for that particular project before you run out.
Yeah, definitely. On this, I don't know what this person's saying, but I've noticed there aren't any dye lots on yarn now. When years ago it was important to have all the skeins the same. Why is that? I haven't noticed that.
No, I haven't noticed that either.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's a particular company that stopped.
I was gonna say,
I was gonna say, is it anyone in particular that you've noticed? Because I think, or I probably don't take much notice though. Actually, to look in my stash, I'm like, But I think they are dyed on such a big scale now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right. I think, Hannah, I think you're hitting it. I think there are certain ones, and I don't know them off the top of my head, because usually the yarn I use do have dye lot numbers, but I think that some manufacturers do them on such a large scale that they don't even bother to put it on anymore, because with those particular ones, you probably can go back and get the exact same shade. But I think that is probably when a manufacturer has more of a mass production. It's definitely not going to be for either a smaller company, or if you're purchasing hand-dyed yarn from somebody, they're definitely going to be different dye lots for those. So I think it has to do with the scale on which that particular product is being dyed.
That's really interesting. Lots of people are popping in saying, so Red Heart doesn't use them, We Crochet doesn't use them, Shapies doesn't use them. I must have a really old stash of yarn then. I need to update. Shapies yarn has got dye lots, but maybe that's just because it's a bit old now.
I do have my twill label here, and it has got a lot number.
So maybe maybe that's really information. That's really interesting. Lots of companies they have
color match. Really,
that's very interesting. I mean, I must admit, it's a long time since I've had. Well, Raylene, you had something, didn't you? I can't remember what it was, but there was some yarn that you were making something, and you were like, "Oh, the back doesn't match the front, even though it's the same color." So I think it's worth.
Yeah, I did, and I do think that. I think that was. Oh gosh, what was that, Hannah? I'm trying to remember. I think I want to say I don't remember what yarn it was, but I do think it was from We Crochet. And so I think that there were different dye lots for that, but that was that maybe a good year ago now? So maybe this is something a little bit newer.
It changes all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Oh, Christy's here. Raylan saying your video was great. Yes, we agree.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I thank you for coming out to see the premiere of it too. I was really surprised with how many people were there. I was pleasantly surprised and very nervous.
You're fine. I just want to cover this for Kira to clarify. If we save the videos on YouTube, we'll be able to revisit later. Just want to make sure. Yes, so all of these live sessions will stay on YouTube. The premieres that the designers are all doing on their YouTube channels, we haven't stipulated that they need to stay after the weekend. So after the weekend, it's entirely up to the designers whether they keep them or whether they go away. So we don't know if they'll all still be available. They won't all still be available in this format.
I can say for sure that one of the lessons that's going to premiere tomorrow will not be available.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So just a heads up to it for everyone. One of the lessons that's going to be premiered tomorrow will not be available as a free video on that link. Even if you save it, unfortunately, it will be going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So on the back of that, then, should we say, so if, because we have had this question, if like, because people are like, there are so many videos to watch. If you want to buy the lifetime all access pass, you still can do. You can click on that link there, and that will get you lifetime access. They will never ever disappear then.
That's right. Yeah, they will always be inside the all access pass. Yeah, they will not disappear from there. But the free versions that premiere over this weekend, unfortunately, at least one will definitely be going after this weekend. Unfortunately, yeah.
Now this is really interesting. So this is, I was going to ask you this. So, but I've noticed on Wool Warehouse, which is a company we have over here in the UK, and other UK and European sites, fingering weight is not listed, but 4-ply seems to be what's referenced. Yet 4-ply could be any weight, right? Confusing? Really?
Yes, very confusing. You are absolutely correct. 4-ply could be any weight depending on what fiber it is made of. Unfortunately, I am not based in the UK. I know nothing about UK yarns or their labels or anything like that. So everything that comes from me is always going to be US based. So I'm not really sure about their particular yarn. I would probably actually have to have it in hand to give you any more information about it. I don't know. Maybe they use a completely different, I don't know. Ladies, do they use a different system in the UK?
Speaking as a British citizen, we like to be awkward. We like to be difficult. Of course. So we cut fingering weight yarn over here. We refer to as 4-ply.
4-ply.
You just call it 4-ply. I don't know why.
It might not actually even have 4 strands of yarn, but it's called 4-ply.
Oh my goodness.
No. So this is so when my mum is of the generation that definitely called it 4-ply over here, and she will say, "Oh yeah, have you made that in 4-ply, Hannah?" And I'm like, "You mean fingering weight, Mum?" And she's like, "No, it's 4-ply." So we do. It's ridiculously confusing.
Yeah.
So if you are from the UK and you're shopping elsewhere, you won't find, well, you might find 4-ply, but it might not be the same as the 4-ply you recognise. So
yeah, you might be
very careful.
Might be surprised by the actual weight, the thickness of the yarn, because 4-ply doesn't actually mean the fingering weight thickness. So yeah, it's a bit like the US and UK crochet stitches terminology.
The terminology, right? Yeah.
Let's start a convention. Say, come on, let's all use the same yarn weight, stitches, everything.
But I believe on
confusing for everybody. We really need to have one system, everybody.
I was just gonna say, I believe on the Craft Yarn Council website, I think the weight is categorized, and there is actually 4-ply fingering, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's there somewhere.
And someone here said that,
I know So in the video, there is a link that you guys can go and look at the Craft Yarn Council. Now, I did put up like I do have a thing of like their standard weights and that sort of thing, but there might be somewhere within their website that does do that it kind of helps with a little bit of that conversion for you. I know they have that for UK versus US terminology, so they're a really great resource if you guys want to check them out. I think that's a really good
that they try to make sense of the differences on that website, don't they? Just try to
they do.
So sock yarn or 2-ply again is different, isn't it?
Yes.
You absolutely really need to look at the yardage on it and what category it's being called.
Right.
But also, like as you said, Raylene, like you can have a category 4 weight yarn that's really, really thick, or actually that's nearer a 5.
Very, very thin as well. Right.
And
it makes very confusing, and that's why I think having at least a basic understanding of yarn weights and your fiber content is important, because like you said, this person said it's fingering weight. Is it 2-ply? Well, it depends on the fiber that particular yarn is made from. A fingering weight could be a 4-ply, which is what's you guys say in the UK could be a 4-ply, or it could be a 1-ply, and it does make it very, very confusing. Which is like I said, having a basic understanding definitely does help. And then using Yarn Sub, of course, if it's a lot of information to retain. Not everybody is going to be able to remember every fiber content. I can't do it. I know there's just no way. So Yarn Sub really does help, but it is a confusing things. But I do hope that the video lesson at least kind of help with some of the basics of that understanding. And then I'm always here. I know you guys are always there to be available as resources. There are other resources out there that you can come to and ask questions, but a lot of it is just a matter of understanding what fiber is this yarn made from, and is this going to be appropriate for the project or the garment that I am designing.
And just to confuse things further, sometimes actual yarn companies themselves, they put sort of classified their own yarn, but then when you look at the meters and the yardage within the ball and everything, you kind of find out that this is not chunky, this is just worsted weight. They call it chunky. So it is. So that is why you need to go back and rewatch Raylene's lesson if you need to again, while it's still available within the free summit weekend, because Raylene did an amazing job of trying to nail down the real basics and give you the basic knowledge to really be confident in choosing yarn and substituting and doing all the numbers yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the same person says, so sock yarn is not fingering weight. So sock yarn, yes, you can have fingering weight yarn that is sock yarn, but sock yarn kind of covers it. Like you can have category 1 weight yarn that you can make socks with, and that is a good sock yarn. So it's like, there's
really
many different names for all the same stuff. So the best place to go is that Craft Yarn. Go and watch Raylene's video again and get that Craft Yarn Council chart.
Right. And I have that handout for you. You can get it free on the website. And what I've done is I've given the Craft Yarn Council, and you have to understand these are standards, right? It works like with sizing. Not everything fits into the standard, but we have to have some sort of standard to compare things to. So the standard weights are there. And then what I've done on the side is I've kind of given you a typical definition of what that standard weight means, and then some project suggestions that would go with it. And just remember, not everything's going to fit into those standards, but these are a good place for you guys to start if you're having some trouble picking out and figuring out what yarn you want to use for your projects.
Absolutely.
The person has said, thought that sock yarn was fingering weight with added nylon for stretch. Yes, you're right. The sock weight part of it is that it's got nylon added to it, but you can use any weight of yarn for socks that's got nylon in. Does that make sense? Is that right? Have I got that right?
No, to be honest, I think when people say sock yarn, because there is a lot of patterns for socks that use 4-ply or fingering weight yarn with the added nylon. When people say, oh, I'm using sock yarn, that is very often what people think about. But yeah, you can make chunky socks, DK weight socks, worsted weight socks, whatever thickness yarn you want. So, but yeah, I sort of get that, because when somebody says, oh, sock yarn, I'm automatically thinking, okay, fingering 4-ply with added nylon for strength. So yeah, you are right. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then before we go, because we're running out of time again.
I know.
Susie has said here, I had to call my mum to tell her about how fabulous all the videos have been.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
Raylin. That's so lovely.
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Right, so have I missed anything? Where are we?
Yeah, let's have a quick look.
Oh, here we are. Someone said that big box stores have curbside service, and I won't use for yarn because of the possible multiple lot numbers. Yeah, it is hard, isn't it? And I do find that if I'm ever shopping for yarn in a store, sometimes you have to really rifle through the stuff to find the ones that actually match and the lots that match. But it is worth it, I think. I think that's worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. Because especially with like a cream yarns, cream colored yarns, you might not notice it after your first few stitches, but after a lot of rows, when you step away from your project, then you think this is completely different, and it shows, and you can really see it. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking the numbers.
Definitely. Right.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm reading the chat on the side, and there's people saying thank you, and some that will be watching the video again and again and again. And I just wanted to quickly, I know we're running out of time, so I just wanted to quickly jump. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for coming out to watch the premiere and to be here for the summit. We love that.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Raylin. And so next, everyone, you need to click on the Cody thing that it's all shiny in the middle there. And then we are going to Claire next, aren't we, to talk about yarn again, but chunky.
Yep.
So
chunky.
And learn. I learned so much in Claire's video. So watch Claire's video and then come back and meet us in about half an hour. I'll get a quick drink and we'll see you back here.
Quick outfit change.
Quick outfit change, of course. Of course.
Right. Thank you so much, Raylin, for joining us. It's been amazing.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.